Basically, engines are due to be replaced by dictates everybody's insurance rates at home and businesses. We get a rating, and a lot of things come into play, our training and et cetera, but the apparatus are a big one. And after 20 years, they're no longer considered for homeowner or business insurance. So not replacing a piece of equipment in time will cost everybody in town some money down the road. NFPA, which is one of our agencies that regulate us, recommends that apparatus are greater than 15-year-olds placed in reserve status. Because we have an excellent maintenance program, we split the difference between ISO and NFPA, and we go to 20 years. And we feel comfortable with that. There's no penalty for NFPA with that as long as we have a good maintenance program, which we do. The town supports us. We have an excellent maintenance budget, and we take care of them. So, but after 20 years, they need to be replaced. We are on a 20-year replacement plan for the pumpers. We call it replacement on the twos. Our last pumper we bought was in 2012, engine 4. Engine 4, which is 10 years old, or will be 10 years old next year, will be going up to our center firehouse, the center of town. Engine 5 is there now. The new engine 5 will be coming to headquarters. It's just busier, and that way we can run it more, especially with it under warranty. We like to use it as much as we can. It gives engine 4 a little break, and that's what we do. We cycle them through. So in 2032, engine 4 will be due to be replaced. That's kind of the schedule that we're on. A new engine 5 is $775,000. We have the 2/3, 1/3 deal with you guys going back to a few years. That would be $517,000 for the town, $258,000 for the fire company. The additional outfitting of $35,000 for the truck will be funded by the sale of engine 5, the existing truck that we have, and any fund drive revenue, the fire company will cover that. We didn't feel fair to burden you guys with that. You're being generous enough to help us buy the truck. We can outfit it and take care of all that.
So what's the bottom line cost?
For you guys?
Yeah.
$517 for you guys. And again, we ordered 2021. I'm shooting for September, and delivery in 2022.
And how old is the current engine?
The 2003.
2003.
So right now it's
almost
like
20
it's
years.
like 18.
20 years old, yeah, 18 years old. By the time we get it, it's 19.
It's 18.
We wanted to get it on the 10-year cycle, so we're getting them every 10 years, and that was when we submitted our long-term plan a couple years ago. That was agreed on. New thing here, the Brookfield Fire Company will now be taking over the price of Car 1, the replacement cost, and TAC 9. So no more will that show up in our long-term replacement plan. We feel that with our funds that we have, those are small items that we can handle, and we don't need to have the town handle those. That's a cost of about $140,000 that we'll absorb over the next year, which is good. The other thing is the TAC 9, which is a 2007 Expedition, up to the ambulance garage, and will be our back. Purpose it. The fire company 13 F-150, kind of a light-duty truck office, so the town will be gaining from that. We'll be repurposing it and giving it to the fire marshal's office, so they'll have it. They're always scrapping for vehicles, and now they'll be able to have one with on our tankers. We've evaluated them. We currently have a 99 ISO or the NFPA. So as long as we can keep them going and they're in good shape, they are. We're not going to replace them. We'll move them down the road in our replacement plan in a few years.
Train, like we had the ambulance,
Yep.
we had a repair. Then we just look at it then.
Look at it that way.
Okay.
The truck, they're big Peterbilt tankers. They're meant to run forever. They're trucks.
sounds like you've already vehicle?
Correct. We went 96 to build our pumpers. It's consistent for parts and operational and things. We did go out to bid through Sourcewell and HGAC. There's all sorts of comparable bids. So our truck actually, it's on the lower end of the bids, which is good. It's not by choice, it's what we want because it's a consistent, it's actually a twin engine 4 right now, so anybody can get in it with the same switches. I need things to be easy for people to operate, not having 16 different, trucks doing different things. So we use Emergency One out of Florida. That's who we kind of went with.
And we're comfortable with the quality of their
Very
equipment?
comfortable. It's 1976. We bought 11 vehicles from them, and they're very accommodating, and they're a custom apparatus manufacturer. There's some things specific to Brookfield that are on this truck, for our needs, and it really worked out well. And due to the accessibility to Sourcewell and HGAC, we're able to look at other bids and comparable do
Right.
things easily. And we looked at Pierce too. They came out. They're another large apparatus manufacturer. They were almost $900,000. Good truck, but I can't see that price difference. It's not. For what we get, we're looking at Chevys, not Cadillacs.
Yeah.
And then that's basically.
Well, it's good to be consistent with your
Correct.
manufacturing. As you say, all the guys have got the same equipment, they know how
It's
it
not only the
works.
manufacturer, that's a big thing, but the way they're set up, that's the most important thing. Somebody can get in, pump this truck, I don't have to teach them 10 different ways. And when I started 30 years ago, that was not the case. You had to really know what you were doing, and
Yeah.
now it's a little bit more easy.
Yeah, I just want to be aware for people listening
Yes.
that, you just didn't pick a
No,
number,
we just didn't
right?
willy-nilly.
Yeah.
There's a whole process behind it, and
Right.
We feel very comfortable with our vendor and the relationship we have with our service, which is also important.
Okay.
Andy, the deposit that they're gonna be looking for this year,
Yep.
is that what the firehouse will be able to cover?
It's a portion of what the fire service will cover. We'll handle the thing this year.
Okay.
I just need
need
you,
more than that.
you guys say, all right, we're buying this truck, and we need to get it, and we'll pull the trigger, and we'll sign papers and get it going, and we'll handle the initial deposit. It's usually 10% lower or whatever it is, but we'll handle that.
Okay, all right, you don't need
That,
more.
that comes out of your reserve, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That comes out of our reserve, and we have it, very well planned out, and we're ready for it. We have one more year of payments for engine 4 and tanker 2, and they're paid off, and then we have a few years left on engine 5, and they're paid off. Or engine 1 is paid off. So and the tower we paid off totally when we refurbished it.
Yeah, so this is in our 10-year capital plan, but what Andy is saying now is they're making a commitment this year,
Right.
whereas we would not make the commitment until we do next year's budget.
Correct.
And they want a heads up
Correct.
to us and to the Board
I
of
have to,
Finance.
I have to sign the paperwork, and I have to get it going.
That-
I need the okay.
Okay,
I'm not asking for, you to give me anything right now. I just need to say, okay, Andy, order the truck. We're committed to it. And-
Yeah, but in a sense, once you do that, we agree.
Correct.
We made that commitment too.
Correct. But that's why we're here. I just can't,
We're
I'm not
funding
signing
that,
any
we
paperwork.
don't have.
Yeah.
Andy, our larger purchases, the larger vehicles, are we done paying for all of them by the time we get rid of them? Are
Yes.
we,
Oh,
okay, good.
Very much so.
Good.
We've been taking out, we have access to low interest loans, and our money's making more money than it would be if we were to spend it, so we have, a reserve, and we pay off our loans. And we only, engine 1 is doing what, 2025 is paid off, I think? Yeah, it's 10 years.
about that,
Yeah,
25,
2025. So that was when we were buying the whole cost of the truck, and it was,
Yeah.
this is the first new fire truck you're gonna buy it for us, this partnership. You helped us refurb the tower last year, which was big. This is the first time that the town and the fire company are jointly, doing this, which is awesome. It's just gonna help us out greatly, because like I said, donations,
Yeah.
they're pretty stagnant. Not that we're not appreciative of everybody's support, it's just not keeping up with what we need to do.
Well, we've had a capital plan from you guys for as long as we've been in
Yeah.
office, for 5 years. We understand what it is. It's very clear, it's concise, it's understandable, and this is just an iteration of that moving
Correct.
forward.
We
So-
cou years ago a couple years ago for the tower and the ambulance, when it had to be
Yeah,
done,
but-
same thing, and
Right.
it was in the plan. Again, I'm telling you that the plan looks better. Lou, did you send him the plan? Didn't you?
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, we'll send it to you tomorrow, but
Okay.
the plan looks remarkably better because we gave you guys a worst case scenario.
Right.
And I wanted to have placeholders because I don't know what that's gonna look like in 20 years. Now we're
Right.
looking at it, all right, so we'll push it out 5 years and I know we can come to you if there's a problem, but we're confident
Right,
that, you guys planned for the worst case and it's just not gonna be. So,
And we
actually, we're gonna
continually
be helpful
update
with things, so.
these plans, and the updates are getting better.
Absolutely.
Right.
Marsh was a big help with that when we between the
Yeah.
QuickBooks and then our capital plan.
Yeah, yeah.
We all work really well together, so.
Good.
But this is just something that's gotta happen, it's a necessary evil, and, like I said, between the insurance stuff and the basic need to replace it, it's time. If you
Great.
start, our repair costs will go way up, and I don't want
Great.
to.
No,
Thank you,
We have
Andy.
to, safety is always,
Correct.
Yeah. Any further questions?
no?
So I would make a motion that we approve this from a constituent standpoint, that this is something that the Board of Selectmen would approve next year's budget, and that we move this to the Board of Finance to gain a commitment from them to conclude this in next year's budget. Do I have a second?
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 I just
Any
have a
further
question.
discussion?
I just have a question. I'm certainly not saying no, obviously, but, we just got this. I would like, the recommendation is to hear the presentation. I would like to just be able to understand it a little bit better,
Sure.
the process and everything. This is like a crash. I'm certainly not saying no. I don't see the problem to table it, just so that, we can read through this a little bit, understand the process and everything, and then maybe at the next meeting make it, rather than.
Is there a deadline that you're on?
I'd like to order it by September, because there's gonna be a price increase down the
All right,
road.
so
I
we
know
have
I-
August.
Yeah,
price
yeah.
We have
increase.
August.
I can't.
I would just feel more
Yeah.
confident.
A 1 or 2% or 3% price increase on a truck that's 770 is a lot of
Yeah.
money.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a $500,000
Yeah.
purchase. I would just like to be able to look at the paperwork a little bit.
Okay, so technically, you're making a motion that we table this until
Yeah.
next month's meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a second on that? And you're making a motion to rescind my motion.
Yes, and I'll second my own motion.
You can't second your own motion. I will second your motion. So your motion is to rescind my motion and to table this until
Yes.
our August meeting. Can we do that?
He's just moving to table your motion.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So he's
yeah,
not
yeah.
rescinding.
That's
He's
right.
moving to table.
Good
Did
point.
you get that, Jenny?
Yeah, and again, with
No,
my
the
time.
Harry's motion modifies my motion just to table this.
Modifying your motion to table it.
He's making a motion to table my motion.
Harry, it's
I
$500
would-
million, so you're doing your job.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Thank you.
No, no ifs, ands, or buts on mine, believe me.
Thank
But that's why we're here right now, and that's why we wanted to. I
Yeah,
didn't want
yeah.
to rush this last
Yeah.
minute, we have to know what's up and,
I just think it's good, public perception, and it's just good for the board to be able to just take a little time and look at this.
Absolutely.
That's
If you have any
fine.
questions, you call me, and, Lou will send you the updated apparatus replacement plan, the projected one that we
Yeah.
that we changed. Go from there.
Great.
So,
Thank
I-
you very,
Your next meeting is when?
August
August
2nd?
2nd?
August
This
2nd.
Monday night?
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
ask if we can
first
be
Monday.
first, please, because we have our monthly meeting that
Yeah.
night,
Yeah.
and I'd like to get in and out. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Question, are you gonna move this on to the Board of Finance as well?
Well, that's
Or
my
we take
second
to the
point.
next meeting
I make a I would
Right.
second Harry's motion to table my motion, right? But let's finish that first, right? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carries 3-0. I would also make a separate motion, that we still forward this to the Board of Finance so that Andy can make a presentation of this project this month with the Board of Finance. That's my motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that, yeah.
Harry seconds that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So
Awesome.
we'll move it to the Board of Finance
Awesome.
this
You
month.
can
See you
keep us
don't
on
lose
the first order of business next month.
Yep.
We get it. Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Yep.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Really appreciate all the good work you guys do. Okay, our next item is a proposed cell tower at the Public Works Garage. Ray Vergati is going to from Homeland Towers is going to make a presentation to the board. As you remember, we discussed this in May, and we had put it off.
And what was the motion that we made in May?
In May was two things. One, to go to the planning board for an 824.
Which is,
Ray, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, guys.
thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Lou.
Adios.
Adios.
Have a good meeting.
Thanks. You too.
Great, thank you. Go ahead.
All right. You can hear me okay? For the record, I'm Ray Brigatti. I'm the regional manager for Homeland Towers. Homeland is a tower developer out of Danbury, Connecticut. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'll make a brief presentation on the project that we're proposing before the town. Happy to answer any questions from the board, obviously. Homeland, just by way of background, we're a developer. We're out of Danbury, Connecticut, so we're local. You may know the name. I've worked with Steve before, obviously. We did the tower here on the town campus back in 2014. We did a lease with the town. Verizon was the anchor tenant for that particular project. That's the 150-foot monopole that's behind the firehouse right now. So we work as a developer with the carriers. They come to us and they ask us for their assistance. These sites are very expensive to build, to develop, to permit. So they really rely on us to build the infrastructure. And that's all we are as a tower developer. We build it. We get to steal in the air. And they become our tenants. They're our customers. So when I say they, I'm talking about the Verizons, the AT&Ts, the T-Mobiles, the new company called Dish that's coming out. Public safety is huge. These structures have become critical infrastructure, just like water, sewer, gas, electric. We find that people are screaming for these sites these days. It's changed. I've been doing this business for 21 years, and not that it's become completely acceptable everywhere, but it's become much more embraced by first responders, public, and getting an understanding of how critical these facilities are. In this particular case, the anchor tenant that we are working with is AT&T. Unlike Verizon, who was our anchor when we were here 6 years ago on the campus. AT&T has a need both for coverage and capacity in this area of Brookfield. Really, it's the Grays Bridge Road. We're proposing a facility at the town's highway garage or highway department. It's 93 Grays Bridge is the actual address. It's roughly a 3.77 acre parcel. You know, doing this 21 years, I will say that I like to work with towns as a first resort. The town has a sense of control. It's nice to see the towns gain the revenue from this project. The ultimate permitting process goes through the state, and I'm happy to discuss the process with the board, but it goes through the Connecticut State Siting Council out of New Britain. There is, you know, some control because if the town wishes to go forward with Homeland, it's on town property, so you do have that sense of being able to control it and gain the revenue from it. If the town should pass on this project, I will say that, you know, we have interest from other landlords, obviously, in the area. My job is to, you know, as a real estate manager, to work with, we think is what the best site is. This is a very industrial area. You've got infrastructure already going through with the Eversource power lines going along Route 7 there. A lot of commercial and industrial space that's right there. So I'll give it just a brief overview on this is a site plan. We were out there in December, I believe. I was with Ralph Tedesco and I think James, a doctor. We looked at, and I just want to make sure there's no confusion. We looked at 2 town properties. We looked at, I believe it was 35 old Grays Bridge Road, I think that's where the bus depot is, and we looked at the 93 Grays Bridge. We are proposing a facility at 93 Grays Bridge. Right now, just for bearings, this is the dark dotted outline of the parcel. That's roughly 3.7 acres. You've got a current salt dome or salt shed, basically, that you use. You have an existing storage cover-it building for all intents and purposes. It's like a canvas building stretched over a steel frame.
Like a Quonset hut.
Quonset hut, exactly, yes. We're proposing to site the facility in the corner over here for a number of reasons. It gets us some decent elevation on the property. Elevation is a good thing for the carriers. The goal is to really see Route 7, Federal Road, and to handle the amount of traffic and capacity that's going on in this area. The existing sites that they have, they can't handle it. So we're proposing to site the facility where the existing Quonset hut would be and just relocate that hut to the front of our lease area. We have kind of an irregular shaped compound. In a perfect world, we build a square, 75 by 75. We put the pole in the middle, and each carrier has their equipment at the base. This one is just a little irregular shaped. I think we're just under 3,000 square feet. I had heard Andy make a comment before about they would be interested. I have not spoken to Andy. I do know the town's consultant. I'm working with Mr. Zito on another project in Connecticut where he's with New England Radio Communications, and I'll be happy to talk to him about this project as well. But it sounded like, from Andy's perspective, from the fire department, they may have some radio issues here. You mentioned something about Costco causing some interference with their potential radio.
Yeah, if we move forward with this, Ray, we'd obviously would like to get access to that for our
Yes.
fire and police.
Yes, so
which we have on this one. We'd like very similar, and I believe the lease that you gave us
Yes, what we try to do is not recreate the wheel.
Right.
We use the same lease template that
Right.
we did here in 2014 with the town, and yes, that's carved out, and there's language that the town is on there for a free ride. We
Right.
don't charge you any, you know, any cost for that. We even have space showing municipal.
Would that impact the height of the tower itself by adding the town to it?
So right now, we're proposing 165 feet. That's being driven by AT&T. If I work with the town, with Paul Zito, your wireless consultant, most likely that will be sufficient for him. I can't speak for the town's needs. Paul would run what's called a propagation map, and he would come back and say, yes, we can put in a whip antenna coming off the top. We usually reserve the top of the tower for public safety. And that's a quick 48-hour process. I reach out to Paul. Paul, here's our project. Yes, Ray, we'd love to go on the tower, and we'll let you guys on for free.
Because, Tom, you may not be aware of this, but the Outside Services Fund from the Police Department is now doing a study to replace our police radios, which are significantly older than we would like them to be and failing. So we're going to hopefully coordinate the new towers and what they need into the new radio system.
Good.
So they're
Yeah.
aware of that and following it very
Yeah, I don't know
closely.
exactly, Steve, what the town is doing. Maybe going to a simulcast network, basically. And I'm not an engineer.
They haven't
Real
completely
estate.
decided yet.
Yeah.
It's still going through the review.
Yeah.
But we would take that into consideration in looking at a new cell tower, obviously.
Certainly.
It's something that both
Certainly.
our police and fire support.
So we'll make it available to the town, obviously.
Ray, I had a quick question. It's
Sure.
16 stories. Is this going to need to be tethered, or will it be standalone?
It's a freestanding monopole. There would be no guy wires to it. It's a freestanding monopole, just like the
And this-
tower that's here at the town
And the
hall.
height of this one is?
The height of this one is 150.
It's a lot
So we're
taller than that.
15 feet taller. We don't drive the height, so there's a process when we go through the permitting process. And there's no local permitting per se. I'm here before the Board of
Right.
Selectmen, and P&Z would have a say in regard to this, but if we're on private property, or even going down like we did on
It's a
the
siting
town property,
council.
it's a siting council. State agency out of New Britain, they oversee all transmission, solar, cell towers, things of that nature. So during that permitting process, AT&T would have to justify 165 for a height. We've seen times when towers get reduced down because the siting council's been doing this for 25-plus years. They know how to ask the hard questions and make the applicant, in this case AT&T, prove the need of 165. There are times when the tower gets reduced and so forth.
So to that point, I think it's important for residents to understand that the town doesn't have control over this, except for leasing the property.
Absolutely.
It's the siting council who makes all these decisions.
Absolutely. The siting council, it's unique to, they oversee all 169 towns. Now, if I go over the border and I do a lot of work in Westchester, regardless of on private or municipal property, I go through P&Z,
Right.
any type of town boards and so forth. Yeah. So this is just the outline of the property. The exhibit I have just literally shows more of a zoomed in. Again, this is where the existing Quonset hut is now. We would just basically be taking this spot. We've designed it to have the new hut located in front here. We have plenty of turning radius. We've worked with Ralph
Right.
and Mr. Doctor on that, so that's a non-issue for us. And as you can see, a smart business, we design it for 4 carriers, and we have a space here for municipal equipment as well. There's 3 carriers right now in the market. When I started doing this work, there were 6 carriers. You had Singular, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, and Nextel. Singular and AT&T merged as one. And in recent years, Sprint gobbled up Nextel, and now T-Mobile has gobbled up Sprint. There is a 4th carrier that's coming into the market, into the area. It's called Dish Network, and that was part of the FCC approval that they had to spin off this 4th carrier. So we designed for at least 4 carriers plus public safety, both on the tower and at grade within the compound. The compound itself is typically a fenced area. There's no barbed wire on it. It's anti-mesh or climbing. You can't get a toe in it. There's no pegs down low to climb the tower. Everything is locked, obviously. We do need to have, not so much we, the carriers need 24/7 access in the event that they need to do a maintenance call to the site. We don't plow. These sites are visited so infrequently, literally once every 4 or 5 months by a carrier. So, we're a silent tenant. We're not calling up our landlords in the middle of the night with leaky pipes and problems, so it works out well. And this is just what we call an elevation drawing.
And these poles are rated for what kind of wind speeds?
So they're rated in different ways based on different areas. I think the ones that we build, we over-engineer them. Literally, it's Cat 4, I think up to 135, 140 mile-an-hour winds. So they're not going anywhere. The ones that you see sometimes that fail are the lattice towers. Sometimes you see the news, an ice storm comes through. There's no horizontal space for ice to sit on these towers except maybe on the platform. But the lattice towers that you see that crinkle over sometimes on a bad ice storm, they have all the cross beams and cross members to them, and that causes a lot of weight and loading with the ice buildup.
Ray, can you turn that so that the people can just get a peek at it as well? Thank you.
So this is just an elevation drawing showing, we're designing it for multiple carriers. Doesn't really show much. It's just a generic lease exhibit. This was the previous exhibit showing more of a zoomed in, again, of the equipment compound. This is the existing salt. Again, for bearings, you've got Route 7 and the Eversource power lines running here. This is, I think, the Still River or whatever they call it. Right. And Grace Bridge runs right off here just to the north. And put this one back up since it's a better angle for people to see. It just gives the overview of the parcel itself with the proposed location here in the corner.
So, two things. One, there would be a hearing, right, that the public is invited to.
It's not a
as we move
hearing,
forward?
so the process, it's called a informational meeting.
Yeah,
It's,
sure.
if-
But where people can come and make
Absolutely.
comments.
Absolutely.
All the residents in the area within 500 feet, I believe?
So they'll get
Art?
noticed through the mail, but I always advise the town to put it on your website. We'll put it in the local,
Yeah, what we would do is notify people directly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how the process works when we do these projects is we file an application with the town. It's called a technical report. And the same process as we did 6-7 years ago with the town. We will, assuming the town wants to move forward, we will sign a lease with the town. We will then have this, we'll work on our zoning deliverables. When I say zoning deliverables, we will go out and float a balloon to a height of 165, a red helium balloon. We'll take photos of where that balloon is visible from, where it's not visible from. We run a phase 1. We do environmental work. We really dig in and really produce a report that's rather in-depth. A lot of due diligence goes into it. That takes us about 2 to 3 months to do. We will come to the town and file what's called a technical report. The town has 90 days to have this informational meeting that Steve was just talking about. We did that 6 years ago. We came and I believe we were in the same room, and we did just a presentation to any town officials as well as the public, answered questions. On the 91st day, after the 3 months, we will then file the formal application with the Connecticut State Siting Council. They go by the acronym the CSC. So that's when the heavy lifting really comes into play. We'll file the application with the CSC. They'll assign a docket number to it. They'll put it on their agenda. There will be another a true public hearing in town where everybody gets noticed. And we will come to town again, and they'll conduct, well, let me back up. They were coming to town before COVID and doing everything in person. The hearings as of recent have been through Zoom. But I suspect by the time if this does go through, we'll be back to in-person meetings with the Siting Council to have a meeting in town. And they know what to look for. They ask a lot of questions. They put the onus on the applicant, in this case AT&T, to prove the need, to prove the height. Not only is this just a cell tower, but AT&T they have the national contract for what's called first responders. And it's their network for the fire, police, and EMS to work off these phones. And this particular site would be compatible with the FirstNet network that they're doing. The Siting Council process is anywhere from 6 to 8 months, not an overnight process. They usually have the public hearing. They'll keep it open for a month or two, allow any written comment to come in, obviously. The town can intervene, they can not intervene, they can do whatever they want to do. And at the end of the day, if we're successful, they would issue what's called a Certificate of Environmental Compatibility. We would then come back to the town of Brookfield to file for a local building permit. So just from a timing perspective, It's about a year process through the permitting process. It's not done overnight.
And the closest residence is about 600 feet to the north.
Closest residence is
Is
Edwards
right-
Drive. It's
yeah,
a cul-de-sac
right there.
here. There's
House
about
name?
7 houses, I believe, on
On
that
Edwards.
street. What's nice about it is the sense that we have screening here, and the views of these houses are oriented east and west.
Yeah.
They're not oriented toward the tower. And that's not to say that coming out of Edwards Drive, you
would
pull
see
out,
it.
you're going to see a tower, just like they see the Eversource power lines right now and
Yeah.
the highway garage across the street. We can only do so much to screen, obviously,
Yep.
you know, but certainly we think it's a good site, given the landscape as it exists today, being so commercialized and
Yeah.
industrialized.
And to the west is industrial, to the south is open space, the Still River and along the Still River Greenway.
Yeah, is the river an issue?
It's not, it's not.
I know we, have
Yes.
something going on, with the river back there
Yeah.
with the environmental that they want to.
Yeah, so this would go to your P and Z for referral back to the Board of Selectmen to allow Mr. Dunn to enter into a lease. When I say it goes to the P and Z, it's not a bite at the apple to vet it, like it's going before them and they vet it with their P and Z capacity. All they're there to do is this compatible with the town's comprehensive and development plan?
Right,
Um,
RPOCD.
If I'm in New York, I have to be 100 feet away from wetlands. It's just how the New York runs it. Siting Council likes us to be away from wetlands, but there's no hard set rule. I've done cell sites 20 feet from a wetland area before. We don't want to be in the wetlands, and we're certainly not in it here. Given the elevation, there's no wetland issues. We're not in the flagged wetland area.
Will you need to take any trees down between that property and the business that's next door?
No, no trees would need to be removed. It's
So
open right now.
You'll still have that, the block between the two that.
Correct.
They won't at least see it on eye level.
Correct. And that's some type of small,
It's a business.
business there.
Yeah.
I have two questions, right?
Yes.
One for you and one for Steve.
Sure.
What would be the initial annual income for the town, and then what are the increments moving forward?
Sure. So the way we have the lease structured, we have a greater or scenario. We offer
Yeah, I saw that.
a rent of 1,800 hours. If the second carrier comes onto the pole, the rent jumps to 2,000. But we also have a revenue share built into the lease. If we're successful as a developer, I don't win a lot, and I'm not profitable in the sense where I build a tower and I've got one carrier. When I look at my development costs, paying taxes to the town and what I've invested into that site, we want to be able to get 2, 3, 4 carriers on board. That's why we write our deals where we share a percentage of the gross rents that we collect. If you run just the straight numbers and you say, okay, it's a 55-year lease, and let's say only one carrier came to that tower for 55 years. So 1,800 hours escalating at 2% over 55 years is going to be just around $2 million that the town would receive in revenue. If
Yeah,
we're
so what would, and I don't need an exact amount.
Sure.
But roughly, what would our,
21,600 per year,
per year?
plus a revenue share.
21. And what would the revenue share be roughly?
So the way we have it, it was structured the same. If a second carrier comes, the rent would jump from 1,800 to 2,000. If a third carrier comes, that's where it's going to kick up even higher because we have it written in that the town's going to receive 25% of the gross rents that we collect. These are our customers. We don't gouge them, but certainly the more money that we collect, the town would benefit as our landlord for that.
So what would the revenue, roughly, what could we
If we
possibly?
were to get 4 carriers on this pole within the 4th year, if you extrapolate that over 55 years,
Just an annual, roughly.
it's 4
We're not
million.
going to be here 55 years.
Yeah.
I just kind of get an idea what,
It's going to double, basically. The rents, instead of being the 21, would be around 45,000 a
Okay.
year.
okay, thank you. And then one for you, Steve.
Yeah.
With this new system that we're putting in, the radio, telephone, with or without this, is this going to affect us moving forward with that?
Wouldn't affect us moving forward, but it would facilitate that for getting coverage across the entire town and strong,
Okay, so if we
clear
didn't
coverage.
have this, then we would have limited service, is that what we're saying?
It wouldn't be ideal.
Okay,
It wouldn't be ideal. We do have a couple dead spots in town,
yeah.
right?
No, I know we have.
And this would facilitate that whole process, especially going digital,
Right.
because digital signals don't go as far. They're still doing that analysis with the Police Outside
Right.
Services Fund, so we don't have the final answer.
Okay.
But yeah, it would certainly help.
Yeah. Thank you, Ray.
And I see at the end of the lifetime, you are responsible for taking it down. You don't just
Correct.
abandon it.
We have language in there for removal, obviously. I think if I looked at the lease, I'd have to check it again. Maybe the town attorney has it in front of him, but I think we even posted a removal bond, which is standard. We can do that. We can post removal bonds. You know, another thing that our landlords, some of them take advantage of, most of them don't. Most of them like to have that monthly rent check that comes in over, you know, it's an annuity over the next X years. But there are landlords of ours that have taken a lump sum payment. And what I mean by that is the lease is worth X amount of dollars over the term of the lease.
So you determine the net present value, the future flow of
Exactly.
funds, and give you,
Here's a check, Brookfield, for $700,000-800,000
yeah.
upfront. You no longer get that.
Lottery, but
that
get
So
it now
you'll
or-
give me a discount rate of 12, 14%?
Maybe pay for your fire truck. Yes, we'll give you a discount.
Yeah.
We pay for your fire truck that Andy was just talking about. I just mentioned that because
Yeah.
this is an asset that becomes part of, you know,
Yeah.
the property, obviously.
Oh, we've gotten offers on this cell tower.
Oh, yeah, they come out of the woodwork.
They come out, we get them all the time.
Yeah.
They haven't been reasonable offers, so I haven't even brought them to anybody.
Yep.
You know, somebody's trying to, well, for towns that need financial
Some
help,
towns need financial help.
we don't.
Correct. That's a good thing.
We're in good shape. So we don't have a need for $400,000 or $500,000, you know, to make sure we can buy a fire truck. Our finances are in good enough shape, we can do things.
And we're planning ahead. We're putting
Right.
money aside for this.
Right, exactly.
And these sites they're very expensive. That's why companies like AT&T, Verizon, they rely on us to build the infrastructure. At the end of the day, I'm investing about $700,000 into the ground. I mean,
Right.
the cost of steel is just astronomical these days.
You'd
time
just
I
be
pay-
glad it's not plywood.
Yeah, exactly. My attorneys, my environmental scientists, you know, everything that we do is,
Yeah.
they don't come cheap.
Yeah.
They don't come cheap.
Yeah.
So part of my concern was the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it is very industrial there, but, you know, you do have that street.
Mm-hmm.
When you have your hearing and the residents can speak,
Sure.
is there much sway that, I mean, if you do have just this road that's upset, that, you know, does the siting council?
Siting council, they weigh everything. They take everything into balance, obviously. As I mentioned, you know, I just don't approach one landlord, in this case Brookfield, and say, would you like a tower? I vet the area with other proposals. Now, there's certainly, when you're talking about 165-foot structure, you can't hide it. It's
Yeah,
tower. You can't
it's
hide
big.
the Eversource power lines that run down Route 7. Those, are, I believe, are around 140, 145 in height. And you may say to yourself, well, why aren't the carriers going on the Eversource power lines? So those particular power lines have a very high outage rating. We had the same situation here at the town hall. Because of the outage rating, the carriers can't go on them. But to answer your question, the town, the residents have say during the public hearing. Siting council weighs everything. They will look at what other properties expressed an interest. The town has a lot of weight, being the town. I will say, if there's another parcel that works and checks all the boxes for us, meaning, you know, least visual impact, least environmental impact, a willing landlord, works for the carrier's network. If there's a better site, siting council will smoke that out and make sure that we did our homework, obviously. This area, it's a very, the way the topography is, AT&T, if you're traveling south on 7, the terrain juts out where basically the Berkshire Park is off of Vale. And they're trying to get around that area. So they're trying to be in this area to see around that corner with the site, obviously. But they'll make sure that we did our homework and we just didn't pick an easy site and the first person that raised their hand and said, I want a cell tower on my property.
Well, I did wonder who was benefiting by it, because it is in the southern part of our town, so close to, well, now it's Bethel
Yeah.
and
Yep.
Danbury.
Yeah, so certainly all the businesses on Federal Road, Route 7, and as I mentioned earlier, this is not solely a coverage site. It's a capacity site as well for AT&T. There's so much volume of users in this given area. The existing sites can't handle it, just can't handle it. So they need an offloaded site. They look for existing structures first, be it a billboard or a water tank or other church steeples or other towers. When they've exhausted their structure in the area or lack of structures, they come to us and say, Homeland, can you please help us out? We've always eyed this area. I've always known it to be a trouble area for the carriers. If you travel the corridor, you've seen your phone drop. You go inside a store, it degrades the signal even more.
So it's not so much coverage as what you're saying, it's volume of calls and information flowing that you
Yeah.
need to meet.
It's the data that's being.
We have coverage there, it's just not the volume.
And health and safety for people who are around there?
So
Any reports on
We,
that?
yeah, we submit a report that goes in with the siding council application. We have an engineer that can certainly talk about it. And it's funny, when the siding council has their public hearing, you know, they come right out and say the site cannot be denied on health and safety. The 1996 Telecom Act trumps all that, obviously. But when people
I'm
understand
sorry,
the
Rick,
science of
Can
this.
you repeat that? I just didn't,
Sure, sure. So there's a health and safety report that we file with the application
Right.
called an MPE, a Maximum Permissible Exposure Report. And it shows the thresholds, how the carriers operate under the FCC thresholds. And people are amazed when they realize what these facilities are putting out from an energy perspective. That's why if you drive on a highway, you'll see a tower every mile and a half, because they're not broadcasting out in large areas. It's not like a radio station that's got 50,000 watts that's covering, you know, the state of Connecticut or Fairfield County. These sites operate at very low energy levels, and that's why so many of them are needed to talk to each other, basically, to hand off the calls. But yes, we have a report that shows that, obviously.
Thank
And we talk to, you know, answer questions from the public. And, you know, doing this 21 years, I got a lot more questions 21 years ago from people that talked about that. It's become so accepted now with Wi-Fi out there. You know, I don't know if there's patch antennas in the building here, but every school now basically has patch antennas inside classrooms. It's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah, we have had some success with the siting council. If you remember when Eversource wanted to increase their facility on, you go up past Grace Bridge, make a right. What's that road? Where the stop sign is? It goes into Bethel.
Stony Hill?
Stony Hill.
Stony Hill?
So they had a
that-
facility
yeah.
they wanted to expand, and there was a street here
Right.
with 4 or 5 houses on it, and they wanted to change their access point to their site here through that street. And we were able to convince the siting council, they already have
Doesn't make
access off of Stony Hill. They don't need that, and it's going to disturb our residents.
Sure.
They don't want big trucks and equipment coming down a residential street. And the siting council agreed with us, and they said, just do it from where you are. Now, they had to make the road a little wider and build it up for heavy equipment, but they were very cognizant of the needs of the local people as to these sites. Right.
If
Thank
I
you.
thought there was a better property, private or municipal, I'd be pursuing it
Right.
just as hard as I've been working
Sure.
with your administration. Because at the end of the day, I'm the one that testifies before the siting council why I picked this property.
Right.
And of course, it's got to check the boxes
Right.
and fit all those, obviously. But it's a great opportunity for the town, and you know, I'm hopeful that the town wishes to move forward. In this particular case, as a developer, there's times where I will sign a lease knowing that a carrier is coming. They may not be funded there today, but we sign a lease and we wait. It's a waiting game. In this particular case, which is nice, this carrier is funded. They're ready to go right out of the blocks.
So, just for the record, I've talked to the police chief and to Andy Ellis. Both the fire and the police departments are in favor of this for future capacity for what they want, and as long as we get to ride on the tower for free, as it were.
Absolutely.
They would support it. Okay, so, any other questions? Any further?
I don't have any more
And
questions.
Public Works is,
Oh,
Fine
Public
with it.
Works is fine with it,
okay.
because they're gonna relocate the Quonset hut. It's in the very corner back of the property. It's not gonna affect Public Works' day-to-day operations at all. So they're comfortable with it, because that's the first thing I said. Guys, we don't wanna be blocking what you're doing. So they're very comfortable with it.
We're just still waiting for planning's 8-24
That's the problem. We haven't gotten the 824 referral from the planning commission, so I would suggest we table this until we do get that. If we get it this week, we can always have a special Board of Selectmen meeting to discuss it in the next few weeks, or bring it up in
I was
August.
gonna say, because, I mean, are you under a deadline for this?
I'm not under
Say
a
it's
deadline.
year.
Yeah.
I just will say that AT&T is eager to
Yeah.
move this forward. And if it means me going to P&Z and making a formal presentation to answer questions, sometimes I do that, sometimes they just look at it and they do the.
Yeah, the last time we did this, they just looked at it.
Correct.
All the information we sent, you gave
Correct.
us. So we're gonna follow up with them. If they wanna have a presentation, we'll ask you to come in. But right now, I'd say we table this until
And,
we get
yeah,
that.
And August isn't a true month because we're meeting so late this month.
Yeah, it's only 3 weeks
So-
away, really, our next meeting.
Yeah,
It's
I
August
will
2nd.
unfortunately not be here. I'll be on the Cape with my children and family, but if you need me to attend that August
Yeah.
2nd, whatever it was,
I don't
you want me
think
to
so.
call in and do a Zoom, or I could have one of my colleagues
Right.
certainly come. We're here in Danbury. It's not.
You know, unless we get a real concern from P and Z on the 824 referral, I think that we'll just take it up then, don't you think?
Yeah.
You agree?
At a
Yeah,
time.
I just did have one comment. My thoughts are, it's a 16-story structure. It's another commercial piece out of our farm town. We're gonna get complaints, whether they're legitimate or
Oh,
not.
sure.
We're gonna get people concerned. We're looking at maybe $35,000 a year.
Which is not
To
that
me, it's
much.
not worth it to, it's just another piece of commerce that I don't think we need. It's not gonna be ideal, our system's not gonna be ideal. I'm a contractor. I have to deal with not always being ideal, so I would not be in favor of this, with all due respect.
Sure. Nope, I understand. Everybody has an
That's
opinion on it,
understandable.
obviously. I appreciate that.
Yep.
And I do appreciate it's very thorough and it's very informative, and I have appreciated your.
Well, I think we should also send a note out to each of the possible property owners on Edwards Drive
Yes.
and just give them a heads up that
Yes.
this is what's being considered. Do you have any comments, pro, against, right? And just get that feedback from them so we're not dropping it on them. You know, because a lot of people, they don't pay attention
Yeah.
to what's going on in town.
And you can let them
rightfully
know
so,
there'll
they
be-
can't follow every
There'll be
single thing.
additional hearings and meetings. This is
Right.
not being done behind closed doors.
No,
or
no,
Middle of
no.
the night or quick
But
process.
I'd like us to be a little more proactive, so I'll send a
Yeah.
letter
Yes.
out to each of them,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Just saying,
Yeah, and I think it needs to
here's-
be on the website. I mean, I think the
Yeah.
other residents need to know as well.
Yeah.
What's going on.
Because it is the pathway over to that side of town. I mean, that's
Yeah.
exactly, where we drive.
I mean,
Yeah,
we do have
everybody
that
does
dead
that.
spot, I know, because when I'm on there and I'm talking to somebody, it is a bad spot, but, you know.
And it's
I would-
nice.
And
I would rather go through the bad
And
spot
I
than
tend
have
to
another
agree with
town.
you, Harry, on this too. It's not a lot of money,
Yeah.
but I think I want to weigh what Andy
Yeah,
had to
yeah.
say,
yeah,
because that's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
finding now that the town's public safety entities are just embracing this. They want to be able to send that EKG to Danbury Hospital when they're en
Yeah.
route. And that's what the amazing thing that these towers and facilities can do. It's instant data transfer. And it's, you know, I think I read something the other day. I think it's up to 70% of 911 calls are now coming through cell phones.
yeah.
I know you folks had the wind shear storm a few years ago, and I saw what it did on Route 7.
Yeah.
You know, where it takes out
And even
phone and
cell phones
electric
didn't
for,
work.
for weeks. Yeah,
So
well,
that-
they
so our-
couldn't keep up with the demand with the generators trying to keep up these sites
Yeah.
up.
Our emergency vehicles don't have a direct route by communication to our major hospitals. We have to use a cell phone for.
No,
ambulance.
they have radios. They have radios.
Yeah.
But they're radios who connect to this tower at high speed and send it to the hospital. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
they're
So
life-saving.
right now,
Especially
if
when
we're
we
in
go
that area,
digital.
we
And,
can't
yeah,
send a
and it's-
message to the.
No, we can.
Yeah.
They use
I think
radios
what
just
he's
like the
saying is,
police use radios.
I would get a
the
little
power's not
confused
gonna be
then.
down, or, we're.
It gets to be more and more, and you're talking about bandwidth, the amount of data,
Yeah.
like for an EKG to be sent, is a lot more than just talking on the radio, hey, I've got somebody who has a heart attack. If you want to send all that information, you want to send it quickly and get it done accurately. So let's do that. Okay, so we'll table this to next month. I will talk to the police chiefs and the fire chief, ask them to put together any recommendations they have. I know they're both positive on this. And wait for the planning, right, we'll follow up with them, and then we will send a letter to all the residents, I think, up the road within
Yes.
1,000 feet.
Yeah,
who
even the
might-
ones on,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a nice
there's only
courtesy
like
to
3
do.
or 4 houses
yeah,
there, too.
there's not too many, right up to Grace Bridge Road, I think, you know, where the baseball field is. Because those are the ones who can come out, and they're the ones who are gonna see it when they drive out, right? Okay, great, thank you
All right.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Great.
If there are any questions after, feel free
Sure.
to email me or call me.
Will do, thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Okay.
Did Sue second that, or the tabling it? or-
Oh, yeah, can I get a second for that?
I'll second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries 3-0. Super. Uh,
This is 3B. 3B.
Yeah.
Monthly agenda items, our coronavirus update. Our rate of infection has gone from 0.3 to 1.7, I believe it was. So it has gone up. We continue to watch that. It is primarily people, younger people, aged 20 to 35, who are getting infected now with the coronavirus. It is not at the level that we need to institute any further, restrictions or bans or anything like that. Town hall is still on, because of executive order. Public buildings, you have to wear a mask while you're coming in if you are unvaccinated, but we just asked everybody to wear a mask. That expires on July 19th. My guess is I don't anticipate that the governor is going to extend those unless something strange happens. The Delta variant of the coronavirus is becoming prevalent in every state in the nation. I know some states are really having a hard time with it. Connecticut is not so far. Over 70% of Brookfield residents are vaccinated. The issue that then becomes for the children, ages 2 to 12, is that there is no approved vaccine for them right now. We don't know when that might occur, so what's going to happen with the schools is still up in the air. I think it would be useful to recognize the fact that neither the town nor the Board of Ed has control over this. It is the governor, the commissioner of public health, and the commissioner of schools who's going to make the decision on whether to mask children or not when we come back to
That's
school.
what I was gonna ask, so we don't know.
We don't know.
Whether our kids are gonna, now,
It's up to
Okay.
it's up to
Yeah,
Lamont.
it's up to Governor
State.
Lamont, the commissioners of health and education, and the Board of Ed has no say about it. They simply have to execute what the state.
now I
Now,
thought.
somebody could sue the state.
But
obviously.
I thought that when, last year, different municipalities, even though there were mandates, had different forms of protection as far as whether they were masked or weren't. It was done by municipality.
The rules were the same for everybody from the state and executive orders. The execution and interpretation of those rules did vary by municipality. It did.
Okay.
And how they implemented it, in some cases, was very different from town
And
to
do
town.
we have any say as to, I mean, parents are gonna need to make a decision what they're gonna do with their kids.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get this dropped on us, the first week of August? That,
There's
yes, you're gonna have to wear masks, or no, you're not?
From talking to John Baril, the superintendent, and to others, there's significant pressure being placed on the state to make a decision quickly so that people can plan for next year. Obviously, if the rates go through the roof, it's going to affect it, but if everything's remained status quo as it is now, they can make a decision.
Yeah.
But it's up to them, and I know they're pushing them hard to do that, because obviously we have to plan for our kids.
Yeah.
Masks, no masks, vaccinated, unvaccinated, how do you handle that? How do you protect kids against FERPA, because there are privacy rules? It gets really, really involved as to what you can and cannot do. That's a little bit off, well, it's still coronavirus, right, so we can discuss it.
Thank you.
Coffee with the community will be held on Saturday, July 31st, from 9 to 10:30 at Jester's Coffee House at 331 Federal Road. We encourage anyone who has questions to stop by. Yes,
We had our last coffee with the selectmen at the new coffee shop,
coffee and chocolate and coffee?
And if you haven't gone there, and you want a little bitty piece of like a Vermont country store,
Yeah.
that's where you want to go. It's really,
Yeah.
it's great inside, the food is great.
And now she's added some sandwiches or quiches?
She's adding
Quiches?
different
Yeah.
things. They're having other events.
Nice
They had a
people.
car rally there, but I would highly suggest
Stop by.
and the other thing that they brought up, and I think is a good idea, is at some point for us to put up some type of a respectable and aesthetic sign, not just another street sign, but with some directions as to, what is up, as you get to the four corners, the names of the stores, and so that people know where they are,
Yeah.
because they're in a location
Yeah.
that's very difficult to find.
Yeah.
And it's a great little store, and they need all the.
That's a good idea. Since that's a state road, the state
Yeah.
would govern that.
Yeah.
But they could apply to the state. For example, like Shakespeare's Garden, going up
Yes.
133,
Yeah.
they applied to the state, and you'll see both down on Route 6 and on 133 signs that say
Right.
Shakespeare's Garden or DeGrazia's
Yeah.
Vineyards.
Yeah.
But they would have to apply to the state for that.
Okay.
That's a good idea, though.
Yeah.
Okay. New law effective July 1st governs the conduct of boards and commission meetings. It's pretty involved, but while some meetings may go back to full in-person meetings, the new law does allow for fully remote meetings to continue or for hybrid meetings, which means some in person, some on Zoom or Teams. The provisions governing remote and hybrid meetings expire on April 20th, 2022. From the discussions that I've had with most of the boards, they do want to meet in person, particularly like zoning and Board of Finance. And so we encourage them to do that if they feel they can do it safely. We're leaving it up to each board to make their own determination. And I think they hopefully will all be back in person pretty soon.
I'd say mine are, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up one thing. Last week, on Friday, the second day that we were collecting taxes, Town Hall lost power for a little over 2 hours. It's one of the heaviest days for receiving people walking in and making their payments, and for 2 hours, we couldn't accept anybody's payments. And we just,
had a generator in the budget.
if we had a generator in the budget. So I just bring that up for discussion in next year's budget. But Town Hall has to be up and running. It's a vital part of the community, and people, we don't want people coming here and not be able to pay their taxes. Eek.
Isn't that our, don't we have a generator, do we have a generator or a budget for, I thought we.
No, we
We
tried to
did.
get it this year, it got turned down. We're gonna try again next year, but I think Town Hall needs to have a generator. That's my argument there. We did get 2 pieces of correspondence, one from the Water Pollution Control Authority with their budget, and one from 3 Veterans LLC, the New Milford Recycling Center. Then we move on to our monthly financial update. Marcia, would you like to give us an
Yes.
update?
I've been testing. Red is on, correct? Yes. Okay. That, I don't have a budget actual this month because we're trying to close out the year. The year ended last week and 2 weeks ago. And we don't, so far, we have no surprises. What we thought where we were going to end up still looks like where we're going to end up. The things that we're waiting for final invoices to come in. When they come in, let's say someone has a purchase order now for $1,000 and the invoice comes in for $750, then we can start closing some of these. We should have a much better idea. Your meeting's pretty early in August, August 2nd, and the deadline that we give them for invoices is July 31st. So realistically, it'll probably be your September meeting that we have some better numbers. And we have to have better numbers because the auditors are doing their interim work this week, but they'll be doing their final work in mid-September. So we'll have statements ready for them when they come in. But right now, everything is as expected. You have the acceptance of the ARPA grant funds under my monthly update. The ARPA funds are the American Rescue Plan, provides money to cities and towns. We were eligible for $5,023,169. We round it in our heads to $5 million. That we had to apply for that. We did apply for it. We did receive, we'll receive half this year, which we did in June. And then the second half we'll receive next year. And spending it is that money that you're appointing a committee to talk about. But with all grants that you've been approving them at the selectmen's meetings, so we couldn't wait for it to be approved because we had a timing of June 9th, I think we had to have it in. They gave us about 4 days to do the paperwork to have it in. So we were requesting that you approve the grant at this meeting.
Okay. So, 2 things. One, the ARPA grant fund, I would make a motion that the selectmen approve the acceptance of the ARPA grant fund on the town's financial statements for expenditures that may continue until December 31st, 2026. Do I have a second?
Second?
Oh, do it.
You want
No,
Okay.
this time.
Sue, Harry, choose who
Sue.
you want.
Sue.
Sue.
You know,
Any discussion?
How are we doing with our committee?
Good, that is one of the items we're gonna cover tonight, in appointing that. So we're doing, we have,
Okay, we can-
quite a few people who are asking to join, and that's a good thing, which,
Well, to a point,
yeah, to a point. So we'll have
We
to
don't wanna
have,
get too large.
yeah.
no, we don't want it to get too
So we are
large.
gonna discuss it, I didn't see.
Yeah,
see
it's in there.
that. Okay, good.
So this is just formally accepting. What we've decided to do is to separate this funding, and we put it in a 6-month investment with Union Savings Bank, and we're getting a little better interest rate than we would get from our normal balances that we're keeping there, which is a good thing.
Right, now, but this money is earmarked for COVID relief, correct?
If this money would be in a
Under
separate
the
fund.
ARPA.
Right.
What's the,
Right.
so we could do,
But what I'm saying is, do these people need it now, rather than us
No.
investing it?
if we need to spend money now, we can spend it and then refund ourselves from the ARPA grant. We have enough money in the bank to do that. But when we get to the committee, we're gonna ask them probably to do the study and then come back to us in 6 months. We have until 2024 to start spending this money, so there's not a super rush here to start spending money. And what I would prefer to do is to get a very good plan in place
Right.
with a lot of
But I mean,
thought.
do we have
that people put in.
businesses or companies that have, are trying to recover
Well,
and need the money now?
That's an interesting question, but within here is Mel's report, and he said that they did have 3 people contacting them, that they actually referred to the senior center. So I'm not sure, how many people knew about
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
but he said what they found and what their conclusion is that there really wasn't a need for them. So
Okay.
I would have
Yeah.
assumed that if anyone
I think there-
had that, they would have gone to the
Okay.
group, hopefully.
But as we move further on that, we'll get more detail. So, having made that motion, having a second from Sue, having finished discussion, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye. New items, Candlewood Lake Authority budget. Sue, I will make the motion, then we can discuss it. The selectmen make a motion to fund the Candlewood Lake Authority in the amount of $13,611 to match the funding of other member towns, and that it come from the contingency fund, and forward this to the Board of Finance for review and possible action. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
No, Sue seconds for discussion. So this is, if you remember, the Candlewood Lake Authority asked for additional funds this year for both operating and capital purposes to buy a boat. They downed 3 boats and they needed 2 this year. They settled for 1 boat to start with. And the Board of Finance approved that budget. The Board of Selectmen approved it, and then the Board of Finance approved it. But the Board of Finance lowered that budget request by $13,611. The Candlewood Lake Authority bylaws call for each town to contribute the same amount to the Candlewood Lake Authority. And the Board of Finance cut $13,611 with the understanding that if at least 3 towns approved the full request from the Candlewood Lake Authority, we would put that money back.
Right.
Because we have to under Candlewood Lake Authority bylaws. So that's what this is putting that money back in and then funding at the same level as all the other towns.
Okay, do
We
we,
were aware of this when this happened.
do we ever get to see their budget?
Sure, they submit their budget to us every year. It's part of the overall budget process when we do our budget.
And
It's
do
one
we,
of-
when do we look at that? I mean,
We look at that in February and March, when they send in their budget, and we include it in the package everybody gets.
but I mean, shouldn't we, if we're gonna approve putting this money into their budget, I mean, shouldn't we have a copy of their budget?
You do.
No.
It was given to you in February and March.
Okay, so this, okay, all right, I see what you're
This is their budget request for
okay, I see.
this fiscal year
Yeah.
that they gave us in
So-
February and March.
all right, I thought this was moving
Right.
forward. I didn't
No,
understand.
no,
Okay.
no. This is
Okay.
fulfilling our obligation to meet the requirements
Okay.
each of the other towns.
So
has
now
met.
we're up to 80,000 altogether?
Yeah, right about,
Something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, which is pretty reasonable, and then it'll stay that way.
Yeah,
Okay, does that make sense?
yeah, no, I thought this was,
No, this isn't
Above and
something
beyond.
additional.
Okay.
This is just meeting our requirement under their bylaws for this
Right.
year's budget that we all agreed we would return the money if 3 towns did
Right.
approve the budget, and they all did. Okay? Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Yes, I,
Okay, that's 3-0, okay. On our Code of Ethics ordinance, I make a motion that the selectmen schedule a public hearing on the revised Code of Ethics ordinance on Monday, August 2nd, 2021, at 6:45 PM in Meeting Room 133 at Town Hall. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second. For discussion purposes, the main reason for this is we're getting some grants, and we have to make sure that our ethics rules match the requirements of the grants, and the grants have specific ethics requirements as that you have to meet. So we just tweaked our language a little bit to meet
Yeah.
those requirements. They're not changing substantially, but it's one of those, it's more of a housekeeping thing. We have pretty strong ethics rules in Brookfield as it is. We just have to tweak them to meet that requirement for the grant. So, any further discussion, questions? All those in favor? Aye. Carries 3-0. COVID-19 Long-Term Recovery Committee, we discussed this a little bit, but we did have, I asked Mel Buto, who is the chairman of the Long-Term Recovery Committee, to give us a report. He did send us a letter, and the letter, it's attached. The letter basically says that the Long Range Committee did not find a lot of long-range needs on part of the town due to COVID. They did have a few individual needs and requests on an individual basis, but they did not find an overarching overall need on any section of our population that they could find. That was their response. Okay, any questions, issues?
Yeah, now we're formulating a committee to discuss what we're gonna do with the money, correct?
Yes.
And how are we doing with that? I mean,
Well, that's the next item on the agenda.
Funny you should ask.
So, having discussed the long-term range, we'll move on to the ARPA Ad-Hoc Committee. I would,
I'm sorry, okay.
here's a motion I would make. We got a lot of the applications for membership of this committee on Friday and today. I haven't had a chance to go through some of the bio briefs on some of these. We've had 20 people, right, Ginny, who have
Wow.
requested to be members of this committee now?
Wow.
It's a little under 2019.
It's 19 or 20. I'm not comfortable appointing people today, having just gotten bio briefs on Friday and today. I want a chance to go through them. I think you guys do too. So I would say we will put this off till our August meeting,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So I would make a motion that we table this until our August meeting and take it up then when we've had a chance to review each of the names.
Are we going to be putting a number as to how many members we're gonna have?
Yeah.
We
I mean, that
discussed
is
that.
basically
We
our
said
decision,
9.
correct?
We did discuss that prior at our first meeting, and I think what we had said was 9
9.
was what we wanted, and now we have almost 20 people.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with a decision.
I mean, I think 9 is a lot of people for this board.
It is.
I think it's too many. I think I would want to go, I mean, it's not like I don't think they're gonna be voting on anything, right? They're gonna be bringing things to us.
Recommendations.
They're
gonna
gonna
be
do the
bringing-
same thing like the library did. Look at all the
Right.
options and then come
So
up
it's
with
not like they
suggestions.
need an odd number. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm thinking maybe at the most 7.
We want to make sure though that we're getting different,
Right,
you know,
right,
populations of
right.
the town.
Right.
Well, we had also asked a member from the Board of Ed, the Board of Finance, Municipal Building Committee, Economic Development, to be part of this. So what we could do is have 7 members and ask the board reps to be like liaisons to vet for them. What do you think?
It's just, so if you've got 9 people in a room, 11 people in a room trying to discuss things, I just
It's
think
pure
you're gonna be
heaven.
all over, you're gonna be all
Well,
over
the
the
only
place.
thing there though would be, and who knows when they're going to start, maybe August, hopefully. Not everyone makes it to every
Yeah.
meeting, so if you're only
That's
starting
true.
with 7, and a few people can't make it, you know, you're not getting much accomplished at that meeting.
That's a fair point, too.
Wow.
I wouldn't
mean,
go
we
more
all-
than
yeah,
9.
I mean,
I wouldn't go more
I
than
wouldn't-
9.
what- We can do,
I mean, we don't want to turn anybody away,
Well, we're
but
gonna.
20 or 21 people
I mean, we're gonna
on a
turn people
committee
away,
is
yeah.
going to become unmanageable, I think.
I
We need to
would
look at it and
think-
say, where are the strengths, because you don't need
Yeah.
2 people you know, for Board of
Yeah,
Ed, or, you know,
yeah.
that
Yeah, yeah,
that sort of
yeah.
thing.
I mean, I'm not sure, I'm not exactly sure we would even need,
Board of Ed.
the Economic Development Committee. I mean, that's not,
That's,
Well, businesses,
well,
thinking
Yeah.
businesses in town.
but that's economic development, that's developing commerce, developing businesses. This is dispersing money to people who are already existing. So I'm
this
just
is
not
addressing any issue raised by the pandemic.
sure. Right.
Now, my personal opinion is, I don't know if you guys would share it, that the single most affected group of people in this town are our students and their parents. They're the ones that have taken the brunt of this because they're doing the homeschooling.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They were doing all remote learning. The rest of us, I was in the office every day, right? I was still working. You were working from home. You were still working normally. That's just my opinion. So their job is to look at how best to the town to recover, what programs should we have, and what should we spend it on. And we're asking for
So Board of Ed and
suggestions.
Parents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're asking for suggestions from every part of our community, because somebody might have a better idea than we do,
Yeah.
right? Somebody might come up with something good.
Right.
And then they'll take all those suggestions, vet them, estimate what they
Yeah.
think it might cost, go to the experts, say, okay, what would it cost to do this?
How many
And then
were
come up
on
with the
the
suggestions.
Center School Ad Hoc Committee?
We
Because that was
had-
very successful, and that was a
What-
large
yeah,
group.
That was a large, that was,
Betsy,
how many was
were
on
you
the
on that committee?
library?
Just
How many
guessing,
were on
7
that?
and 9. maybe.
7 and 9.
Yeah.
Now, that's not,
And
that's
that was
not
very
the,
successful.
that's not the one that, can I talk to you?
Sure.
Betsy? I just want to break the law.
Well, Betsy's
Uh,
not supposed to talk, but you can.
Okay, you can just nod, Betsy. Now, that's not the group that Wendy Youngblood led, that we were part of,
No,
right?
Bob Zinser did.
Yeah, okay, good.
I think there were 9.
I think there was 9.
I think there was 9. We can go back and check. And that worked very well, right?
Well, I was on the one with Wendy Youngblood, we had 17, and to me, it was a disaster.
17?
Yeah, it was a
17 's
disaster.
too
Well, that's a large group.
So,
17.
Yeah.
17 is too many.
Yeah.
So,
okay,
getting back to the original thing, I think we really need time to look at all these biographies,
Yes,
particularly if we're
especially
just
if we
going to
can't
pick.
Choose
I'm s-
everyone.
And
Yeah.
all these people look very qualified to me. I don't know
Yeah.
all of them personally, but most of them look very qualified that I do know, so that's gonna be difficult to do. So, I made a motion, it was seconded, to table this to our August meeting. All those in favor?
hi.
Aye?
Can I make
Sure.
a comment,
Steve?
though?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just said sent to school ad hoc.
Oh, great, thank
Yeah.
you. Thanks, Dan. If we're going to be looking at names,
9, yeah.
is that something that you wanted to do in executive session ahead of time?
I don't think we can do that in executive session, can we?
We would have to
I don't
invite
think
them.
you can.
We would have to invite them if it was in executive session.
There's not a personnel issue.
Not a
Per se.
personnel issue. Well,
Right, Sue?
Yeah.
kind of would
Yeah.
be.
I mean, if
We're
we were
putting people on a
gonna,
committee,
they
aren't
would
we?
have to be invited, right, Tom? If,
Yeah, well, even if
Rules
it,
for personnel issues.
that's rules for personnel, and these
Okay.
people are not personnel.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's just the best way to go. Okay. Selectmen's consent agenda. I would make a motion that the selectmen approve the items on the consent agenda, which consist of the selectmen's approvals for routine matters, the 2021 Lake Winona Authority Lake Patrol list of officers and assistant, the library director job description, the town clerk fiscal year 2022 targeted grant application for historical indexing project, the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes. We did have one change in the meeting minutes. Sue Dunn had made a motion, and I think it was
correct
Sue
that.
And I
Slater.
was like,
Yes.
did I do it or not?
Yeah, yeah.
But then I seconded
I've
it, so
done
I
that
figured it was
before, but
Steve.
I caught it before.
Yeah, so there was that one correction. If we all accept that correction? All in favor?
Aye.
You made a second on that. Those were the meeting minutes. The employee changes, Yvonne Check retired from the position of library director. Debbie Brooks was appointed as interim library director. Debbie Truchess was retired from the position of police department records administrator. Sarah Palmer was a new hire for that police department records administrator. Previously, she was a dispatcher. To release driveway bonds in the amount of $750 for 42 Obtuse Road South, 12 Powderhorn Hill, 48 Flax Hill Road, 5 Candleview Road, 3 Allen Road, 12 Drover Road, 20 Drover Road, 22 Secor Road, 135 Long Meadow Hill Road, 32 Silvermine Road, and excavation bond, one excavation bond for 32 Silver Mine Road. That's a consent agenda. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? Well, we had the discussion already, so we seconded it, about the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's 3-0 to accept the consent agenda. Appointments, I would make a motion that the selectmen approve the reappointment of Jay Annis, Bowden Dackow, Maureen Farrell, and Jean Hartnett to the Still River Greenway Committee for a term of 8/2/21 to 8/1/22. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, any discussion? The Still River Greenway Committee has been in place for a long time, but I think we should keep it in place because if we get the grant for the design of the extension of Still River Greenway into New Milford and Danbury,
Yeah.
we would definitely ask this group to be involved in that.
When
Right?
will we hear on that grant?
We don't know. It's now before the state, and the state can take anywhere from 4 weeks to 6 months to decide who gets the grant. We have high hopes, so. So I made that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll
I
second.
did, yeah.
I seconded.
Yeah, she's-
I'm sorry, Sue seconded already. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, carries unanimously. Make a motion that the selectmen approve the appointment of David Frankel from alternate to regular member for the Inland Wetlands Commission for a term from 7/12/21 to 2/7/22. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Harry seconded it. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carries 3-0. I would make a motion that the selectmen approve the appointment of Thomas Lezen to the Energy Advisory Board for a term of 7/12/21 to 2/6/23. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carries 3-0. And now we move to public comment. Does anybody wish to make public comment? No?
I'd like to, I just want to bring something up to the board, if I can.
Sure.
There was one, position that I think the description changed, or there's things that have been added to it, and it was the employee that we had put in at the senior center. I can't remember.
Amy Deesman.
Yes, and I've done a little bit of research, and I think that her salary needs to be, we need to just take a look at that, because I think for the amount of work that position now entails, it's different than it was, and I think we need to take a look at just the compensation on that.
Yeah.
Now,
I see your point. We discussed this briefly when you mentioned this to me before. The problem I have is that I originally, in my original budget, requested that a number of people get increases because of very similar
Right.
reasons. The concern I have is we're singling out one employee, and all our employees are deserving, hard-working, capable people. And it could cause a problem with all of our other employees. Why are we giving someone a raise out of cycle, out of the normal course of events? And I think it could cause more problems than it does fix problems.
And it was in our
Fixes.
budget, but was denied.
Right.
So
Yeah,
we
well,
were
yeah,
going against our budget.
Yeah.
I had not been in favor of that.
You were
As
both
a
in
total.
favor.
You're right, well, as a total, but I just thought.
I agree with you, it's a problem.
It's not as though, it's a matter of the workload. To my knowledge, it's a matter of the workload that's changed.
We'd have to look at each person that was brought up in the budget to see if their workload changed
To
as
be
well.
fair, to be fair. So
Because
at
we've
this
heard
point in
about one,
time,
we haven't heard about the others.
Right.
We have to hear about the others.
good point. You know,
Okay, I can't argue that. Well, I can, but I won't. Okay, I just wanted to bring that up.
Sure.
That one position to me
it's a
is.
very fair point, Harry, and I agree with you.
Yes,
I
yes.
absolutely agree with you, but I
Yes.
don't think we can,
I mean,
12 days into our new budget cycle, start changing the budget. I think it sets the wrong precedent, and it also is probably not fair, as Sue said, to the other people that are also, in my opinion, deserving of raises. I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but It puts us in a difficult position. Is there any other public comment? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
No?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, carries 3-0. Thank you, everybody.